Um, I told myself I wasn't going to come back to YouTube. So I made this account just to talk about New Jersey gun laws. I am a native of New Jersey. I grew up in New Jersey. And I've been watching this whole thing for several months about the New Jersey gun laws. And you know, since as far back as I can remember, New Jersey has always been a restrictive state in terms of firearms. I didn't get involved into firearms until, you know, I was in my early 20s. I am black, I am African American, and these are some of the views that I have about guns and firearms in New Jersey as it pertains to not just the topic of, you know, New Jersey firearms, but also African Americans in the context of guns and gun control. One of the things that irritated me about how the whole topic or discussion of firearms kicked off in New Jersey was how it started with basically deranged white boys shooting up movie theaters, schools, and shooting senators in the head. And somehow the conversation got derailed and turned into pro-gun advocates jumping up and down, talking about Deshaun and Marquise in Camden, New Jersey, Patterson, New Jersey, or Newark. And nobody seemed to care about the homicides and the deaths of black and the quote unquote black on black crime, as though crime isn't committed by people within their own respective communities. And people always want to, create this evil monster of the African American, especially the African American male, as it pertains to guns and firearms. And my issue is how, African Americans are being used as a scapegoat in terms of why we need more gun laws. I'm like, the whole thing that kicked this off was Adam Lanza. It was not, two drug dealers shooting each other in Camden. We've always had that problem. Okay, and if you want to talk about reducing gun crime, then talk about economic opportunities that aren't there in those communities since the factories shut down and left, and you had the race riots in '67. The Gun Bill Act or whatever of '68, that was a year after, some of the worst race riots that New Jersey has ever seen, both federally and at the state level. When you look at these gun laws, the gun laws are most restrictive in basically all the states that have high urban, and I emphasize that, urban black populations. And I think that's largely due to the race riots of '67 and '68. Because if you go out to LA, they got restrictive gun laws, because it's California. And real talk, the restrictive gun laws are based around Los Angeles. They're not based around when you get up in the Napa Valley and other areas. When you look at, the Northeast, it's basically based around New York. And again, large minority or / black, populations. So you have more restrictive gun laws. When you go down to D.C., large black population, more restrictive gun laws. When you get out into the more rural areas, then all of a sudden the gun laws become more lax. And people always want to make it a rural versus urban type of thing, but let's call it what it is. It's a white versus black type of thing, because there's less black people living in rural areas unless you want to talk about the Deep South, which is so rural and the states are so red that you're not going to have, restrictive gun laws made. They're just going to have, certain policies within, the local municipalities that are going to try to make it more difficult for African Americans to get firearms. And a lot of times, people will ask, why are African Americans so anti-gun? It's because African Americans associate the gun violence with the gang violence and the drug violence and all that other stuff, just like white people do. Okay, that's why they're not pro-gun. Truthfully, African Americans should be number one individuals being pro-gun. And if you think about it, starting from the Jim Crow era, of gun violence against African Americans, or just violence in general, lynchings or whatever, you would think that African Americans would be pro-gun, because it's a little hard to try to lynch somebody that might shoot back at you, you know. But the gun laws in the NRA was basically created to keep guns out of the hands of black people. The NRA was formed the year that I think it was like 6 months after the KKK was defined as a terrorist organization by the United States government in, I think, 1871. So I have this, you know, I have firearms. I have plenty of them. You know, I am very pro Second Amendment. I believe that people should have the right to defend themselves. I don't believe in this, you know, this talk that, you know, all people with, you know, people, if we had more people in New Jersey walking around with firearms, and suddenly it would be the Wild West and everybody would be shooting each other. There's no statistical evidence to support that. There's none. Okay. It would be harder to rob or harder to, you know, victimize people who you don't know whether they are carrying or not. You know, we're talking about law-abiding citizens, basically the people with the jobs and the opportunities and living in nice communities and whatnot, who are the ones who are going to be defending themselves with these firearms. The people who are the criminals, they can get guns, they're going to get guns. I understand most of these guns are coming not just from out of state, but also from straw purchases. If you make it easier for people to purchase handguns and firearms like it is in Pennsylvania, then you could have the possibility of guns flooding the street. But I haven't seen the numbers on whether the guns are coming from other states or whether they're coming from straw purchases. I'm pretty sure it's a combination of the two. But these laws that have been presented by the New Jersey State Assembly and by the Senate, that, you know, they're trying to get Governor Christie to pass, they're not going to do anything to curb gun violence, because that's not the root of gun violence. The root of gun violence is the lack of opportunities in the African American community. If you want to look at it statistically, numbers wise, where's most of the gun violence in New Jersey coming from? Okay, it's coming from cities like Camden, cities like Paterson, cities like Newark, New Jersey, which are disproportionately, or I say more, minority than, as a percentage, than other regions of New Jersey. And what people don't want to address is they don't want to address the economic disparity, the lack of opportunities, the crummy schools. If you see, that's harder to attack than to go out here and attack, and say, oh, we need a 10-round capacity limit. That's what we need. That's going to stop more gun violence. When the reality is in most gun confrontations, or even in self-defense situations, it's only 2 or 3 gunshots that are fired. So that's not going to do anything. The law-abiding citizen should have as many rounds as they need to defend themselves against multiple assailants, because that's how home invasions are. That's another thing people don't want to. They always want to talk about the scenario of the person with the gun going off of the deep end and going on a rampage, but they never want to talk about, the mother who's home with her child and her husband's at work, and 3 men show up at her door. They don't even have to be 3 armed men, just 3 men, who are trying to, basically case a house or heist a house or however you want to put it, basically attack, her while she's in the house. Or even a man while they're in the house, or they a home invasion at 3 o'clock in the morning. Nobody seems to want to discuss that. They always want to paint these grandiose scenarios of law-abiding citizens going off the deep end. I mean, it's not Minority Report. You can't stop people from going off of the deep end. And there's plenty of people in New Jersey that have firearms right now. They can't carry them. They can't walk out the house. But nothing right now. There is no law right now that is stopping anybody who's currently a firearms ID holder from loading up their gun, walking out their house, and going to their local mall and shooting it up. The way that people are thinking about these laws are just completely, they're just erroneous. And I only have 10 seconds left because I think YouTube has a 10-minute limit. So I'm just going to end off there. I might actually make a second commentary or part 2, but that's all I got to say for now.